Alright guys, so this is a machine that I have wanted for quite a long while. This is the slightly infamous Elite Cyclonic Canister. It came out around the same time the original Elite Rewind upright that I had came out. It's got kind of a similar metallic blue color scheme. The boxes look identical to each other. If you remember those black Hoover boxes with the silver writing and images and feature descriptions all over it. So they're very similar in that respect. So these are on eBay at $104, $105 a piece, which is the lowest they've ever been. They've hung around on clearance for the past few years. They've been out since like 08 or 09. So I don't know how there are really any still left around, other than the fact that people have had problems with them, which I don't really understand, but I'm a collector, so take that with a grain of salt if you're a normal person. Overall, it honestly reminds me very much of a Lightning, because you got a soft and fluffy brush roll that you wouldn't expect to do much, but actually grooms and cleans, as far as grit and fine dust, very well. It has the same ridiculously small diameter hose like a Lightning, very low airflow and suction, but it manages to clean well while doing that, and honestly has one of the best cyclonic systems I have seen, period, the end, let alone for a bagless canister, because it's quite a bit more difficult to do that in. So I will demo it for you and then talk about it a little bit more. Alright, so for the rest of this I'm actually going to pull the camera off the tripod and get up a little bit closer. Alright, so really the story behind this canister, I mean, like I said before, it surprised me overall a lot, like the Lightning did when I first got it. First let me address, a lot of people have had problems with this, jamming belts and stretching belts, slipping belts, and I had that too, right at first. The thing is, there is this rubber piece, I'm guessing it's to stop vibrations, that fits in, like, between the sole plate and then the top cover and the brush roll right in this area around the belt. Yeah, that slipped into the belt path on mine and got it jammed. Once I pulled that out, nothing like that has happened again. This is not a track belt system. It's not a serpentine style belt. It's not a tooth belt. It's just a normal, I guess you could call it a long life, but just a normal flat belt otherwise. But this will pretty much be the only time you'll ever hear me say anything like this. This vacuum honestly does not need a track belt, serpentine style belt system with the way this power head is designed. Because the way this power head is designed is with automatic height adjustment, and it has these little wheels, these tiny, tiny little caster wheels in the front. Or not caster, but just these tiny wheels in the front. So it does very well to maintain contact with the carpet while not completely bogging down the brush roll, which it did very well on some carpets that even my machines with manual height adjustment basically just burn belts and are very difficult to clean with on. This telescopic wand system is actually one of the best I've seen from Hoover compared to most of their normal cheap crap. The quick release down there is good. The quick release up here is horrible, though. It's almost impossible to get these two plastic on plastic pieces apart. The tools, I don't expect much for these cyclonic canisters, really. The only one that ever set my expectations high was the Electrolux, but that's Electrolux, and that costs basically over double what this does. Then you have a brush roll on-off switch up here, but the weird thing about this is most of these switches are just soft switches when you see buttons like this anymore, meaning they don't have an actual click, they don't have an actual position. Every time you turn the machine off, those revert normally back to on, whatever. This is an actual click. So that is on, and when I turn the machine on, the brush roll will be on. That's off. I think you get the picture. Then you've got the tiny diameter hose, like I said, just like with a Lightning. And then you get into the most important aspect of this machine, which is this cyclonic chamber and the cyclonic technology that they employ on this machine, which is the best I've seen from Hoover, ever. Ever. So, I forget, there's a ridiculous multitude of cyclones up in this top that actually sit, instead of being like the Dysons where they're sitting vertically, these are sitting horizontally with the tips pointing towards the inside of this chamber. You can go online on the eBay listing for these and see a diagram from Hoover of that. But it's just an amazing system. It filters everything out. Nothing gets into the filter. I mean, you can see the buildup of fine dust on the inside there. And the other thing is, you see this fine dust and grit on the inside. This was clean when I started, and this carpeting has just been cleaned once by the Dyson and then once by that Electrolux Ultra Active. And here's what's still coming up from this machine. But really the biggest thing is how clean this filter stays. Overall, this black filter, other than that tiny top corner, which is a very recent development, this stays pretty much perfectly clean, much more so than the filter in the Ultra Active. It's a much, much better cyclonic system than the Ultra Active, which, I mean, the Ultra Active is basically a single cyclonic machine, and this is multi, but more cyclones doesn't always equal better. Either way, for $104 with what these are down to now, I'm very impressed with this machine. And I think that if you are somebody who likes the Lightning, this along with the Ultra Active will remind you very much of that machine. This more so than Ultra Active, but the Ultra Active is a bit more easy to get your hands on. It'll be easier to get parts for in the future, and it has a wider array of attachments. This is mainly just, because I mean these are your only stock attachments that come with it. There aren't any others that you can order from Hoover, so this is basically a canister kind of like an LG compressor that's really more chained to floor cleaning duties like carpet and hardwood floors than anything else. But for $104, I would definitely recommend it. It's just a cool and interesting little machine. There are a couple other machines in the lineup now, loosely based on newer designs of this, but I don't know. They just don't impress me that much. Maybe I just am overly sentimental about the Elite branding, but who knows?